Hello, this is John Black, Super Chemist, here to talk about how to make casing soil. That's the soil that you first grow your spores in your mycelium in a petri dish on agar, and then you put them in jars on grain. Now you're going to have to actually put them into the dirt so that you can fruit them and get your mushrooms. Okay. Now you can sterilize growing medium like cocoa coir by heating it to 280 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. I don't think you can sterilize it. I think you're just pasteurizing it doing that. But I Googled it and that's what it says. Although now that I think about it, growing medium probably is pretty sterile to begin with at the store, or people wouldn't buy it to put in their pots to grow stuff. So what we're going to do is, knowing that fact, all right, is whatever we make, we're going to get a 5-gallon bucket and we're going to boil water and dump our cocoa coir or whatever we're making our casing soil from. We're going to dump it in that bucket. Now we're going to dump the boiling hot water over top of it, put a lid on the bucket, insulate the bucket with like towels or something, or a blanket, and then just let it sit there until it cools down. And that will pasteurize your casing soil. And that's basically all you have to do. Do I do that? No. Yes, I do that, but I do an extra step. I keep it into the bucket, and then when I need to use some casing soil, I open the lid, I put some out into a jar because I know how much I need, how many jars I need, and then I will sterilize it in a pressure cooker for 45 to 90 minutes. Okay? That way I know for sure it's sterile. Is that necessary with the pressure cooker? A lot of people say no. I say do it. Well, it can't hurt. This is the hardest part, is when you're fruiting. You want to make sure that you have zero contaminants in there. Okay? So the first kind of casting soil I'm going to talk about is cocoa coir. Cocoa coir is basically just, if you got coconuts, that outer part that looks brown, they chip that off, or they peel that off, and that's basically what cocoa coir is. Or you can buy bricks of it, or blocks. This isn't a brick, this is just whatever. They either come in 650 gram bricks, or they come in even bigger bricks that don't look like bricks. They look like a few bricks. They're like 11 pounds. 11 pounds only cost about $25. I got this. It's more like a mulch. It's called garden coir at Lowe's. So the first recipe is you just take your, if you have a brick, 650 grams, weigh it out if you don't, put it in your bucket, and then boil 3.5 quarts of boiling water, and throw it into the bucket, like I said, and close it up. You're done. I don't suggest you do that. I mean, if you can get away with not doing that, I would also add vermiculite, and to a lesser degree, I would add gypsum. Okay? So these three formulas here, I just went onto the internet because I don't have the whatevers, you know what I mean? I just make up my ratios as I go, you know what I mean? And as for field capacity is just the amount of water that's in your soil, okay? Now, if you're using any of these three formulas here, your field capacity is already set. You don't have to worry about it. It's already figured out for you. We'll go over that later, though. This is vermiculite. Get organic vermiculite. That's what it looks like. You can get that at Lowe's or whatever, you know what I mean, or some, any kind of nursery planting place. Gypsum, I actually do a video where I show you how to make gypsum. But, you can just buy it on the internet. And here's a formula, and here's a formula. Okay? They're using less water here because they're using a different formula. But you can see they're close, when they're things. The only difference that is really like a big difference is the vermiculite to coir ratio. They're using twice as much vermiculite in this scenario. That's why I like this better. That seems like way too much vermiculite, way too much. So I like this one better, but like I said, I'm just taking them off the internet. And this is called CVG because you got cocoa core for C, vermiculite for V, and gypsum for G. Vermiculite's more important than the gypsum. I've never used gypsum, although I did buy some recently. Now all you do is put your ingredients into the bucket. Like I said, boil the water, throw it in, and you're done. You want to mix it up. Maybe go back, roll the barrel around a little bit and shake it and mix it here and there. You know what I mean? Don't just let it sit there. And you've made your casing soil. Okay. Now I'm going to make this. Okay. Then I'm going to make a different type of casing soil, and it's more nutritious. See, cocoa core and vermiculite, it kind of retards the growth of mold and bacteria. I mean, mold and bacteria can grow on them. Don't get me wrong, okay? But it's kind of resistant to mold growth and bacteria growth, and that's why you want to put it on the bottom of your fruiting basket and the top. That way, it's like kind of like a blanket or a force field, whatever, against mold and bacteria. But it's also nutritious. The cocoa core is nutritious for I don't know about the vermiculite, but the sulfur in the vermiculite and gypsum helps the mushrooms. I do know that. Vermiculite and cocoa core also, absorb a lot of water. They hold water content in, so you don't have to water anything. And that's a reason why those are good to use. Vermiculite, I think, also puts sulfur compounds into the soil, and I think that's what the gypsum is for. I think that it likes calcium and it likes the sulfur from the sulfate, and that's what gypsum is. It's calcium sulfate. That's why you don't want to use all soil. Soil, like dirt, it compacts too much. This is nice and fluffy. It's nice and aerated. Air can get through it, and it soaks up water. What I do is I do about a quarter to a half inch on the bottom of the CVG, and on the top I do the same thing, about a quarter to a half inch of CVG. Okay. Now in the middle, I do a different mix. Okay, and I'm going to get into that in a minute here. And your thing should be about 2 to 4 inches. Your middle layer. Now, how much spawn do you use? For each whatever. Well, I have 6-quart shoe boxes, right? So I need 3 quarts of soil and spawn. 1 quart is going to be for spawn, so that leaves me 2 quarts left. I'll have 1.5 quarts being the special, mushroom dirt in the middle, and then I will have 1 quart for the casing soil on top and bottom. Okay, and I know that doesn't add up right. 1, 2, 3.5 quarts. I would like to say a half a quart for this, so it all works out. But I don't think a half a quart would make my layer on the top and the bottom. I don't think that'd be enough, so that's why I changed it to a quart. That's what I'm saying. I'd have to actually do this to see exactly what I would do. I could eye it up and see better. But it doesn't have to be perfect. You know what I mean? You don't have to have these exact ratios. It'll still grow. You know what I mean? If you have more spawn, then your time will be less. It has to grow to fill out the soil. If you have less spawn, like a 1-to-2 ratio instead of a 1-to-1, well, it's going to take you longer for the spawn to whatever. But when it does grow and whatever, get to the mushroom, it'll be stronger. So you know what I mean? It's all the same. Because this part here where I'm saying, the ratios is all right. I'm just saying I don't know what's going to fit into this shoebox thing to be the level I want it to be at. Because like I said, I want it to be probably about 3 inches in the middle and a half inch on each, on the top and the bottom. That'd be 4 inches total. But I'd have to see it and look at it. You know what I mean? Doesn't have to be perfect. This is just an idea of what I'm going to do. Your spawn to casing soil ratio should be 1-to-2. And if you want it to go faster, 1:1. Okay. So then you can see I'm using a 1:2 ratio. So this 1 quart would be on the top and the bottom, and this 1.5 quart would be mixed up with my spawn. So really, I have a 1:1.5 ratio of that, and a 1:2.5 ratio if you count the casing soil. And that's what I use. Mushroom compost, garden scape. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it says Gardener Mushroom Compost is decomposed mixture of highly selective ingredients used to grow premium mushroom crops. And it gives a list of what's in there. A whole bunch of stuff. Wheat straw, fibrous peat, gypsum. Oh, there's already gypsum in there. Dolomite, crushed feathers, cottonseed meal, peanut meal, and other nutritious ingredients. So what I do for my inner, like I said, the top layer and the bottom layer is just going to be CVG. That way it's nutritious for the mushrooms, but it kind of resists mold and bacterial growth. Okay. In the middle with the spawn, what I do is, basically probably for this 1.5 quart, I'll probably get, 0.75 quarts of the CVG and 0.75 quarts of the mushroom compost I got, and mix them together, and I'll have them in a separate bucket, 5-gallon bucket, and like I said, both types though I will put into a pressure cooker. Okay, especially this mushroom soil compost stuff. Definitely going to put everything into a pressure cooker. You don't have to though. You just dump boiling hot water onto it, and let it sit there with the lid on and insulate with blankets. Now I can't tell you how much water to put in to make this this part here where I'm using the CVG and the mushroom stuff. I'm going to have to actually do it and then put some water in it and do a field capacity check to see, field capacity check means when you're done with your stuff, and you're ready to use it, you get a clump in your hand and you squeeze it. If you squeeze it real hard, you should just have a drop or two come out. You know what I mean? Just a drop or two. If you got a whole bunch coming out, it's too wet. Because what will happen is it'll pull up on the bottom of the container. You don't want that. When you check field capacity, make sure you stir up all the dirt first and get all the water at the bottom. You know what I mean? Get it all mixed up before you try to check. So that's pretty much it. Once you make this, and you don't even have to do that. Most people just use CVG all the way through. You'd have 1 quart of spawn, you'd have 2 quarts of CVG, or you can weigh it up. Whatever a quart of spawn weighs, whatever. But you'd have a 1:2 ratio, and you would just do the same thing. You put a layer on the bottom, layer on the top, and the rest of it you'd mix up with your spawn and put in the middle. But I like this mushroom compost stuff. It's at Lowe's. You should get it. And once I start growing mushrooms, I'll figure out the exact amount of boiling water you have to put in with it. But you can test it yourself. Just do little. Don't do whole big things. Do like 500 mils, a half a quart or a pint of, half a liter of soil that you made, and dump some water in it. Let it sit for a little bit, and then check, and stir it up, and then check the field capacity and see if it's too much or too little. It's not some big complicated thing. It would be if you do it big quantities. Just do one little jar. See what the ratio of water is to soil so that your field capacity is right. Okay, so that's about it for how to make casing soil. If I missed anything, I'll put it in the next video, which will be about fruiting, and that'll be the last, video on how to do it. And then I'll have a video on what you need to buy, the clothespins and the this and the that, parafilm and etc., micropore tape and etc. And that'll probably be it for these instructional videos. So you all have a great day, and always remember, science is great.